In the early 1960s, Ford was in trouble with the youth market. Chevrolet had its Impala, Super Sport, Pontiac was shaking up the scene with the GTO, and Ford was stuck, being your dad's car company. What they needed was something bold, something fresh, something that didn't just move people from A to B but made them feel alive doing it. That's where Lee Iacocca comes in. He was the visionary behind what would soon become the Mustang. He saw an opportunity in the growing baby boomer generation young people who wanted cars that reflected freedom, individuality, and just a touch of rebellion. On April 17, 1964, at the New York World's Fair, Ford unveiled the Mustang to the world. Priced at just $2,368, it wasn't some exotic toy only the rich could afford. It was a car the average American could buy, and yet it looked like something straight out of a racetrack. Long hood, short deck, aggressive stance. It screamed speed even when standing still. The gamble paid off instantly. Ford expected to sell around 100,000 Mustangs in the first year. Instead, they sold over 400,000. By the end of 1966, sales had blown past the 1 million marks. It wasn't just a car anymore, it was a full-blown phenomenon. The Mustang created an entirely new segment, the pony car. Affordable, stylish, and performance-oriented, pony cars became the dream machines of the 60s. And while competitors rushed to copy the formula, Camaro, Firebird, Challenger the Mustang had already carved its name in stone. But here's the thing, Ford wasn't done yet. They wanted to turn this stylish street car into a weapon on the track. And that's where a man named Carroll Shelby entered the picture. The Shelby years and the cultural explosion, 1965 to 1970. When Ford launched the Mustang, it was already a sales juggernaut. But Lee Iacocca and his team wanted something more credibility on the racetrack. If the Mustang was going to be more than a pretty face, it had to prove itself against Corvettes, European sports cars, and the rising tide of muscle machines. That's when Ford turned to Carroll Shelby, the Texan ex-racer who had already built a reputation with the legendary Cobra. In 1965, Shelby took the Mustang and transformed it into something entirely new, the GT350. This wasn't a car for casual Sunday drives. The GT350 came stripped of rear seats, fitted with racing suspensions, beefed-up brakes, and a 306 horsepower Hypo 289 V8. It was loud, raw, and intimidating. Painted in Wimbledon white with blue racing stripes, it looked like a street car but behaved like a track-bred monster. The GT350 made the Mustang a winner. It dominated SCCA racing, giving Ford the performance credibility it craved. By 1967, Shelby unleashed the GT500, powered by a massive 428 cubic inch V8. If the GT350 was a scalpel, the GT500 was a sledgehammer. Suddenly, the Mustang wasn't just a pony car, it was a muscle car heavyweight. And while racers were busy setting lap records, Hollywood was giving the Mustang its global spotlight. In 1968, Steve McQueen's Bullitt hit theaters, featuring a Highland green Mustang GT 390 in what is still considered one of the greatest car chase scenes ever filmed. Overnight, the Mustang wasn't just a performance icon, it was a cultural one. By the end of the 60s, the Mustang had cemented its place as America's car. It was the dream machine of teenagers, the pride of racers, and the poster child of freedom. But like all legends, the Mustang was about to face its first real test. The muscle car wars were heating up, and storm clouds, political, economic, and environmental, were gathering on the horizon. The muscle car wars and the dark 70s, 1970 to 1979. By the dawn of the 1970s, the Mustang was no longer alone. Its runaway success had sparked an entire wave of competitors. Chevrolet Camaro and Pontiac Firebird arrived in 1967. Dodge Challenger and Plymouth Barracuda followed soon after. The pony car battlefield was packed, and everyone wanted a piece of Ford's pie. To keep up, Ford kept pushing the Mustang bigger, faster, and more aggressive. The 1971 Mustang grew with longer hoods and wider stances to fit monster engines like the 429, Cobra Jet. The Boss 302 and Boss 429 programs gave the Mustang serious street and track presence. On paper, it was an arms race, more cubic inches, more horsepower, more style. But just as the battle peaked, disaster struck. In 1973, the oil crisis hit. Gas prices skyrocketed. Suddenly, Americans weren't dreaming about 7-liter V8s anymore. They were panicking about fuel economy. At the same time, new emissions regulations and safety standards were choking the life out of high performance. Engines insurance premiums for muscle cars shot through the roof, making them nearly impossible for young buyers to afford. The result? By the mid-70s, the muscle car era was dying, and with it, the Mustang had to reinvent itself. Enter the Mustang II, 1974 to 1978. Downsized based on the Pinto platform and focused on economy instead of performance, the Mustang II was Ford's survival move. On launch, it sold well, nearly 300,000 in its first year, because it matched the times, smaller, lighter, and fuel-efficient. But for enthusiasts, it was a betrayal. Gone were the thunderous V8s and tire-shredding power. In their place, 4 cylinders, V6s, and a very tame V8 option. To many gearheads, the Mustang II became the black sheep of the family. But here's the thing. Without it, the Mustang might not have survived at all. While other pony cars like the Barracuda and Challenger disappeared by the mid-70s, the Mustang kept its name alive. It bent, but it didn't break. As the decade ended, the Mustang had lost some of its wild identity, but it had something crucial, a future. And that future would roar back in the 1980s with a whole new generation. The Fox Body Revolution, 1979 to 1993. When the 1970s ended, Ford knew the Mustang couldn't stay stuck in the past. The muscle, car wars had fizzled out, gas crises had scared buyers, and performance seemed dead. But enthusiasts hadn't given up hope. They still wanted a Mustang that could be fun, affordable, and fast. In 1979, Ford unveiled the answer, the Fox Body Mustang. Built on Ford's Fox platform, a lightweight, versatile chassis, also used for the Fairmont and Thunderbird, the Fox Body was smaller, sharper, and far more modern than the bloated Mustang II. Its clean, squared-off lines screamed late 70s minimalism, and it was designed to be adaptable for the future. The first models weren't earth-shattering, a mix of 4 cylinders, 6s, and a 302 V8 that barely scratched 140 horsepower. But the foundation was there. What Ford had created was a Mustang with room to grow, a canvas for performance. And as the 1980s rolled in, that canvas exploded into color. The return of performance. By the mid-1980s, America was falling back in love with speed. Gas prices stabilized, technology improved, and the horsepower wars started creeping back. Ford answered with a vengeance. In 1982, the Mustang GT returned with a 5.0-liter high-output V8. Suddenly, the Mustang wasn't just practical, it was quick. The 5.050 became legendary, its throaty exhaust note becoming the soundtrack of an entire generation. Then came 1983. The Mustang got a major facelift and a drop-top option, making it both cooler and faster. By 1985, the 5.0 HO was pumping out 210 horsepower. Numbers that sounded modest on paper, but in a lightweight Fox body, they felt explosive. And then came fuel injection in 1986, setting the stage for a new era of performance. Reliability. The 1987 to 1993 models, often called the Aero Nose Mustangs, refined the look. Further, with sleek, aerodynamic front ends. These were the cars that cemented the Fox body as an icon, the street king. By the late 80s, the Fox body Mustang was the car to have if you were young, hungry for speed, and living on a budget. Unlike European exotics, the Fox was cheap to buy, cheap to fix, and insanely easy to modify. Drop a few $100 on aftermarket parts, and suddenly you had a Mustang that could terrorize Camaros, Corvettes, and even some Porsches. The 5.0 engine was tough, simple, and endlessly tunable. You wanted nitrous? No problem. Supercharger? Bolted on. Gears, cams, exhaust. The Fox welcomed everything. On the street, it became the hero of the underground drag racing scene. On the strip, it was feared. For many, the phrase 5-0 wasn't just a police nickname. It was a warning that the Mustang was coming. Police cars and pop culture. Speaking of the police, the Fox body Mustang wasn't just popular with street racers, it also became a favorite of law enforcement. In the 80s and 90s, Ford sold special service package Mustangs to state police departments. These cars, lightweight and blisteringly fast, were used for highway patrol duty, famously in California. Imagine flying down the interstate in your Camaro, only to see flashing lights in the rear view and a Mustang 5.0 pulling you over. The Fox body was literally fast enough to catch the bad guys. In pop culture, the Fox became an icon of the 80s and 90s. It showed up in music videos, movies, and rap lyrics. It was the car of high school legends, the dream ride for kids, plastering posters on their walls, and the weapon of choice for countless weekend warriors. At the drag strip, racing glory. Ford also kept the Mustang alive on the track. The Fox body was campaigned in drag, racing, road racing, and SCCA events. Tuners like Celine turned Foxes into track weapons, winning championships and proving that the Mustang could be more than just a street bruiser. And let's not forget the aftermarket scene. Entire industries thrived on building parts for Foxes. Companies like Trickflow, Edelbrock, and Vortec made names for themselves, selling horsepower in boxes, all aimed at Mustang owners who wanted to go faster. Cult status. By the early 1990s, the Fox body had become more than just a car. It was a lifestyle. It represented affordable performance, rebellious energy, and grassroots car culture. It was the car that kids could wrench on in their driveway, learn about engines, and take pride in, beating bigger, more expensive cars. Even today, the Fox body holds a cult following unlike almost any other Mustang generation. Clean, unmodified examples are getting rare, and collectors are finally giving them the respect they deserve. What was once a cheap used car is now a sought-after classic. Why the Fox body mattered. Looking back, the Fox body wasn't perfect. Build quality was questionable. Interiors were cheap, and horsepower numbers weren't astronomical compared to the muscle car glory days. But it didn't matter. The Fox body kept the Mustang alive during an era when so many performance cars died. It gave enthusiasts hope, gave Ford credibility, and gave America a new performance hero. Without the Fox, the Mustang story might have ended. Instead, it thrived. The Mustang name survived the toughest decades of the automotive world, and it came out stronger. When the last Fox rolled off the line in 1993, it closed a chapter, but it also left behind a legacy. A generation of gearheads grew up loving the Fox body, and to this day, if you ask them what car defined their youth, the answer is simple: the 5.0 Mustang, the SN95 era, redefining the pony car for a new generation, 1994 to 2004. By the early 1990s, the Mustang was ready for another transformation. The Fox body had given the car new life, but after 15 years on the same platform, it was starting to feel dated. The world had changed, music was grunge, tech was booming, and car buyers wanted something fresh. Ford answered in 1994 with the SN95 Mustang, a car that blended modern style with Mustang heritage, a bold new look for the 90s. The SN95 was still built on the Fox platform, but Ford's designers wrapped it in a curvier, more modern body. Gone were the sharp, boxy lines. In their place came flowing shapes, sculpted panels, and rounder headlights that gave the Mustang a more futuristic vibe. For the first time in years, the Mustang looked genuinely new. Inside, the car received a much-needed overhaul. The SN95 offered a more driver-focused cockpit with better materials and more comfort. Ford wanted the Mustang to appeal not just to enthusiasts, but also to everyday buyers looking for a stylish daily driver. Yet, despite all the updates, one thing remained constant: the Mustang's identity. The galloping pony badge proudly returned to the grille, reminding everyone that this was still America's icon. The powertrain evolution. The early SN95 models, 1994 to 1995, carried over much of the Fox body's mechanical DNA, including the beloved 5.0-liter V8. But in 1996, Ford made a bold move. They retired the pushrod 5.0 and replaced it with a modern 4.6-liter modular 5.8. At first, enthusiasts were skeptical. The 5.0 had become legendary, easy to modify, and full of character. The new 4.6 was smoother, more refined, and built for the future. While it didn't initially wow with massive power, it laid the groundwork for high-revving, reliable performance. The Mustang GT offered solid muscle, but the real magic came from Ford's Special Vehicle Team, SVT. The rise of the SVT Cobra. In 1993, just before the SN95 launched, Ford had revived the legendary Cobra name with the SVT Mustang Cobra. By the mid-90s, the Cobra had become the performance flagship of the lineup. The 1996 SVT Cobra introduced the all-new 4.6-liter DOHC V8, making 305 horsepower, a big number for the time. It revved higher, breathed better, and gave the Mustang world a taste of modern performance. The Cobra was more than just a straight-line car. It handled it, it stopped, and it showed the world that Mustangs could evolve. And then came the monster, the 2003 to 2004 Cobra, nicknamed the Terminator. Designed by SVT legend John Coletti, the Terminator packed a supercharged 4.6-liter V8, making 390 horsepower, though many believe it was underrated. With its brutal acceleration, forged internals, and bulletproof potential for tuning, the Terminator instantly became a legend. Even today, it's one of the most sought-after Mustangs ever built. Mustang versus the world. The late 90s and early 2000s were a competitive time for performance cars. Imports like the Toyota Supra, Nissan 300ZX, and Mitsubishi Eclipse were winning hearts with turbocharged engines and advanced technology. Domestically, Chevrolet's Camaro and Pontiac's Firebird were still in the fight, offering big horsepower at competitive prices. The Mustang's answer wasn't to out-tech its rivals, but to double down on its character. Raw, visceral, unapologetically American muscle. While some critics argued the Camaro outperformed it on paper, the Mustang outsold its rivals year after year. By the early 2000s, the Mustang was the last pony car standing, as the Camaro and Firebird bowed out after 2002, legacy of the SN95. By 2004, the SN95 had done its job. It carried the Mustang through a new decade, kept the brand relevant, and gave us icons like the Terminator Cobra and Bullet. It wasn't perfect. Some criticized its weight, its sometimes cheap interior, or the learning curve of the modular engines, but it was undeniably a Mustang. Most importantly, the SN95 ensured that the Mustang wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. When Ford prepared to launch the retro-inspired S197 Mustang in 2005, they built on the SN95's foundation of performance, nostalgia, and emotional appeal. The SN95 era was proof that the Mustang could adapt without losing its soul. It was a bridge from the boxy 80s to the retro future 2000s. And for countless fans, it was the car that made them fall in love with Mustangs all over again. The Retro Revival, Season 197 era, 2005 to 2014. By the early 2000s, the Mustang was the last pony car still alive. The Camaro and Firebird had bowed out in 2002, leaving Ford's icon standing tall, but also standing alone. The SN95 had kept the legend alive, yet enthusiasts wanted more. They wanted the soul of the classic 60s Mustangs back, the long hoods, the aggressive stances, the raw muscle car attitude. In 2005, Ford gave them exactly that, the birth of the S197. The 2005 Mustang, known internally as the S197, was more than just a new generation. It was a love letter to the past. Ford's designers leaned hard into retro styling, taking inspiration from the legendary 67 to 69 Mustangs. The result was a car that looked both fresh and nostalgic, a perfect balance of heritage and modernity. The design alone turned heads everywhere, with its fastback roofline, tri-bar taillights, and muscular proportions. The Mustang once again looked like a proper pony car. It wasn't just an update, it was a rebirth. Performance meets heritage. Under the hood, the S197 carried a range of engines, from a modest V6 to the muscular 4.6-liter V8 in the GT, pumping out 300 horsepower. For the mid-2000s, that was serious power and enough to put the Mustang back at the top of the performance conversation. But Ford didn't stop there. The Mustang had always been about variety and excitement, and the S197 era delivered a buffet of special models. Shelby returns, the GT 500. Perhaps the most legendary comeback of the era was the return of Carroll Shelby to the Mustang family. In 2007, Ford unveiled the Shelby GT 500, powered by a supercharged 5.4-liter V8, making 500 horsepower. With its Cobra badges, racing stripes, and menacing growl, it was more than a car, it was a statement. The GT 500 wasn't just about speed, it was about legacy. It connected directly to the Shelby Mustangs of the 60s, reigniting a partnership that had shaped muscle car history. And as the years went on, the GT 500 only got wilder, climbing past 540 horsepower, then 662 horsepower in the 2013 to 2014 models, making it one of the most powerful production cars in the world at the time. Boss and Bullet, nostalgia, reimagined. Ford didn't just stop with Shelby. They tapped into other legendary Mustang names to keep the excitement alive. 2008 Bullet Mustang, a modern tribute to Steve McQueen's 1968 movie car, complete with Highland green paint, minimalist styling, and a tuned 315 horsepower V8. 2012 to 2013 Boss 302, a revival of the 69 classic. This track-ready Mustang delivered razor sharp handling, 444 horsepower, and even a track key that unlocked an aggressive race. Tuned straight from the factory. Each of these models proved that Ford understood the emotional side of the Mustang. It wasn't just about horsepower numbers. It was about storytelling, heritage, and keeping the flame alive. Mustang versus Camaro, the rivalry rekindled. For a few years, the Mustang ruled unchallenged, but in 2010, Chevrolet relaunched the Camaro and the pony car wars roared back to life. The retro-styled Camaro was a hit, and Dodge had already brought back the Challenger in 2008. Suddenly, the Mustang had company again, and competition pushed it harder. Ford responded with constant updates. In 2011, the Mustang received all new engines. A 3.7-liter V6, making 305 horsepower, more than the old V8s, and a 5.0-liter Coyote V8, producing 412 horsepower. The Coyote instantly became legendary, powerful, high-revving, and tunable. It gave the Mustang a new performance edge. The battle between Mustang, Camaro, and Challenger became one of the great rivalries of the 2010s, filling magazines, YouTube drag races, and endless online debates. And through it all, the Mustang proved it could still throw punches with the best of them, pop culture and global reach. The S197 wasn't just a hit in America. Its styling and performance made it a global icon. Thanks to movies like Need for Speed and appearances in countless music videos, the Mustang cemented itself as the symbol of American muscle worldwide. Even outside the US, enthusiasts began importing Mustangs at record rates. For many, the S197 was their first chance to own a brand new, factory-fresh Mustang that felt both classic and modern. The emotional side of the S197. More than just performance, the S197 touched hearts. For many enthusiasts, it was the Mustang they grew up with, the one they saw on posters, in movies, or parked outside their school. It wasn't just a car, it was a dream machine, accessible and aspirational at the same time. The sound of a Coyote V8 screaming at redline, the stripes of a Shelby glistening in the sun, the retro silhouette cruising down Main Street. These were experiences that made the Mustang more than just metal and rubber. It was identity. It was freedom. By the time the S197 era ended in 2014, it had restored the Mustang's dominance. It proved the car could honor its roots while still moving forward. It brought back legendary names, pushed performance to new heights, and re-established the Mustang as a true global muscle car. Most importantly, it reminded the world that the Mustang wasn't going anywhere. It had outlived rivals, reinvented itself, and come back stronger every time. The stage was set for the next big leap, the sixth-generation Mustang, a car that would take the pony car into the modern age of technology, efficiency, and global sales. The modern icon, S550 era, 2015 to 2024. By 2015, the Ford Mustang was about to celebrate its 50th birthday. Half a century of continuous production, countless special editions, and millions of fans worldwide had made it more than just a car. It was a cultural phenomenon. But the world had changed. Cars were no longer just about horsepower and style. Buyers demanded technology, refinement, and global appeal. If the Mustang was to survive into the modern age, it needed its boldest reinvention yet. And that's exactly what the S550 Mustang delivered. A Mustang for the world. For the first time in history, the Mustang was designed as a global car. No longer just an American icon, it was engineered to meet international standards and sold officially in dozens of countries. From London to Sydney, from Tokyo to Dubai, the Mustang became a true world traveler. This wasn't just about exporting cars, it was about exporting culture. For decades, foreign enthusiasts had admired the Mustang from afar. Now they could finally walk into a dealership and buy one brand new. It became Ford's ultimate ambassador, carrying the spirit of American muscle across the globe. The biggest change, independent rear suspension. Since 1964, the Mustang had clung to its old-school solid rear axle. It was durable, cheap, and perfect for drag racing, but by the 2010s it was outdated. Rivals like the Camaro and European sports cars were leaving the Mustang behind in handling. The S550 changed that with independent rear suspension, IRS. Suddenly, the Mustang wasn't just a straight-line warrior. It could corner, grip, and dance with the best of them. On twisty roads or racetracks, it felt like a whole new animal. This one engineering change transformed the Mustang's reputation from fun muscle car to legitimate sports car. The engine lineup, something for everyone. Ford knew the Mustang's strength was variety. The S550 came with a wide range of engines to suit every kind of driver. 2.3-liter EcoBoost, Turbo 4, a shock to purists, but a smart move globally. With over 300 horsepower, turbo torque, and impressive fuel efficiency, it made the Mustang accessible to new audiences. 5.0-liter Coyote 5.8, the heart and soul of the Mustang, refined and more powerful than ever, climbing past 450 horsepower in later models. The sound alone, that deep, thunderous growl, reminded the world why V8s matter. Shelby GT 350, 2015 to 2020, powered by the flat-plane crank Voodoo V8, revving to 8,250 RPM, exotic, raw, and unlike any Mustang engine ever built. Shelby GT 500, 2020 to 2022, the king of kings, packing a supercharged 5.2-liter Predator V8, making 760 horsepower, with dual-clutch transmission tech borrowed from supercars. It was the most advanced, most powerful Mustang ever. No matter your taste, efficiency, balance, or sheer insanity, there was an S550 for you. Design and technology. Visually, the S550 Mustang struck a balance between heritage and modernity. It was lower, wider, and sleeker, with aggressive headlights and muscular haunches. It looked every bit the part of a 21st-century sports car, but still unmistakably a Mustang. Inside, Ford finally gave the Mustang a cabin worthy of its legend. Digital displays, premium materials, and modern infotainment systems made it a car you could daily drive with pride. For the first time, the Mustang wasn't just fast, it felt sophisticated, the dark horse of motorsports. Racing had always been part of the Mustang DNA, and the S550 carried that tradition. Proudly, from drag strips to road courses, the modern Mustang proved itself as a versatile machine. The GT350 became a track day hero, rivaling European performance cars at half the price. The GT500 embarrassed supercars in straight-line speed, and the Mustang GT itself became a staple of grassroots motorsport, drifting, and time attack competitions. Even in professional racing, the Mustang shined. From NASCAR to Australian supercars to international GT championships, the Mustang wasn't just showing up, it was winning. The cultural impact. In the 2010s, the Mustang wasn't just a car, it was a global pop culture star. It appeared in movies, video games, and music videos across the world. Games like Forza and Need for Speed put the S550 in millions of virtual garages, while Hollywood continued to spotlight it. As a symbol of rebellion and freedom, it also became a unifier of generations. For older fans, it carried the DNA of the 60s. Legends. For younger fans, it was the car they could post on Instagram, modify on weekends, and take to meets. The Mustang had always been the people's performance car, and the S550 carried that legacy into the social media age. The end of an era and the dawn of another. By 2024, the S550's run came to an end, but not before cementing its place in Mustang history. It had taken the pony car global, elevated its handling and performance, and delivered some of the wildest Mustangs ever made. And as the world shifts toward electrification, the Mustang name itself has already expanded. The Mustang Mach-E, the all-electric SUV, sparked controversy, but also proved one thing: the Mustang brand is powerful enough to evolve and survive in any era. Still, the true heart of the legend beats strongest in the coupes and convertibles, the V8 powered machines that trace their bloodline back to 1964. Legacy of the S550. The S550 Mustang was proof that legends don't just survive, they adapt. It showed that you can honor the past while embracing the future, that muscle cars can evolve into world-class sports cars without losing their soul. From the EcoBoost daily driver to the GT350 track monster to the 760 horsepower GT500, supercar, the S550 was everything the Mustang had always promised to be: freedom on four wheels. And as the Mustang enters its seventh decade with the S650, its legacy is secure. The world may change, the technology may evolve, but one thing is certain: the Mustang will always run free. For 60 years, the Mustang has been more than a car. It has been a mirror of American culture, from the optimism of the 60s through the challenges of the 70s, the rebellion of the 80s, the nostalgia of the 2000s, to the global stage of the 2010s. It has survived rivals, crises, and criticism. It has reinvented itself again, yet never lost its identity. When you see a Mustang, whether it's a 67 Fastback, a Fox Body 5.0, or a modern GT 500, you don't just see steel and horsepower. You see passion, you see freedom, you see a legend that refuses to die. The Mustang isn't just Ford's car, it isn't just America's car, it's the world's pony car. And if there are roads to be driven, the Mustang will always be there, running wild just as it was meant to. If you enjoyed this incredible story, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more epic automotive adventures. Your support keeps these stories alive.